Making the flying geese. We're going to take our squares and our rectangles. We're going to draw a line diagonally from corner to corner, and that's the main thing. If you would like a bonus half square triangle from this, draw another line a half an inch away, and then you're going to sew down along the side of each line. So when I stitch just next to the line toward the corner that everything's going to be flipped to. With this bonus triangle, it's going to finish an inch smaller than what the width of this strip would finish. So if this strip is 4 inches, this triangle will finish 3 by 3. It will be oversized, you'll have to trim it down, but if you don't want to waste anything, this is a really good way to go. So then we've got this stitched, we've got it flipped. The instructions say to press to the back towards the corner. I've been playing around with pressing open. It's really personal preference here. It's not going to impact the way the blocks fit together. There will be a little bit less bulk here when the flying geese are all put together, but they're not being put together point to point. So it's really personal preference at this point. I've got things stitched here, so my next step is to trim, and I'm going to use a ruler to do this so that my seam allowances are even. Then I've got my little bonus half square triangle for some project to be. But before I trim, I forgot to say, I always fold back the wing or the square and check to make sure that it matches up as well as I want it to. This one is just a little bit shy, but I'm going to go with that, and we're going to call it good. If you're really off, you maybe want to redo it, or just not trim the back off, because that'll give you a guideline for the actual seam allowance. So the next thing I do is press, and the pattern says to press away, which is perfectly fine. I've been playing around with pressing open, so that's what I'm going to do for this. I've used starch on these fabrics, and it's really kind of cool how they're so easy to handle. And you'll notice there's really very little threadiness on this. So then the next step here is to do the same thing on the other side. I've drawn these lines. I've actually stitched both of these. Drawn the lines. I'm going to have my bonus triangle. Press that back. That looks good. I press this one open. I will be pressing the next seam open. And I don't think I have an example of both because I kind of started doing that in the middle of this. So there are the flying geese. I'll be back to show you how it all gets put together. So I've got the geese lined up. I'm going to be stitching one to the next down the row. So I like to stitch where I can see where that intersection is so that I make sure I don't cut off the point of the goose. So I try to get right there, just right above that. And as you go, I wait till I get the four sewn together. Then I'm going to be pressing in the direction of the points. So they're actually going to be going into the wider end of the block ahead of them. And it makes for a flatter block because I'm not fighting to press backwards against that point. Here we are again. Before I press, I like to set the seam that I just stitched. I feel like it gives me a cleaner press. And then I'm going to be pressing in the direction of the point. And I do like to use steam. I use it carefully. So I like to get things in place. And then when I'm ready to really let it go, then I give it a little shot of steam. So I think I need a little more water in here. So there you go. Now you can see the blocks that I did not press both sides open here. The ones that I did here, they have even less bulk in that seam, and it lays real flat. So I'll do the other one. And the beauty of this, because these sections are going to be facing opposite, is all of these seams are pressed in one direction, and the seams in the second unit are pressed the opposite, so they'll nest, or they'll be opposing. So the bulk will be split. The seam is pressed on here on this side, the seam is pressed over here, and again it makes for less bulk in these intersecting seams. And here we go. Block is put together. The geese are flying opposite each other, and this last seam you want to press open. Wouldn't be the end of the world if you pressed it to the side, but I think it makes for a flatter block, and that's why I recommend pressing it open. And you can see these seams were pressed open except for this one, and this has a little bit more bulk than here. I think I mentioned that before, but there we go. We're done with part 1. See you next week.